Red Bull's situation with its second seat is becoming alarming, as the team is struggling to score points and remain relevant in the Constructors' Championship. Now that Tsunoda's stint as a Red Bull driver has been very poor, the Thai ownership has one particular driver in mind to bring back to the family. But with the Austrian team currently being mocked in Formula One for its technical setbacks, and with the new regulations not favoring them at all, are they really an attractive option for their former driver? And if they are, what would these teams look like if such a major move actually happened? There's no doubt Red Bull is facing many issues with its driver lineup, especially when it comes to the second seat. In addition to thinking about Verstappen possibly leaving after 2026, they also need to worry about the car's development going in the wrong direction. Nothing seems to be working with the RB21. That's a concerning trend heading into 2026, because if Red Bull starts the season with performance issues, which is likely due to the expected engine disadvantage compared to the rest of the grid, then their technical team may not be the best equipped to solve those problems. And that's exactly the first red flag a driver should consider when switching teams. Is your potential new home staffed with experienced engineers who can solve problems like that? That's why Red Bull will need strong drivers who can extract the maximum performance and data from the car. With Horner's departure, certain doors have opened, and the Thai ownership, who played a key role in his exit by selling the 2% that made the Austrian side majority owners, already has something in mind. Chalerm Yovidia, who owns 49% of the team, is reportedly eager to bring Albon back into the Red Bull family. The fact that they share a close relationship and a common country of origin has helped move talks along. And at the end of the day, we shouldn't be surprised if events start moving in that direction. Of course, this scenario still seems far-fetched for now, since Albon is currently having a great run with Williams. He's leading the team toward 5th place in the Constructors' Championship and laying a solid foundation for the 2026 regulations. The Grove-based team will use Mercedes engines, which could give them a major advantage in securing more frequent podium finishes. But again, we're talking about Red Bull. The Austrian team could move into a rebuilding phase if their power units fail to meet expectations. And we've seen them bounce back from worse situations, like the engine problems they faced with Renault in 2014. It's not like Albon owes Red Bull anything, but it was thanks to their driver academy that he got into the sport. He raced for Toro Rosso in 2019 and, after just 13 races, was promoted to Red Bull to replace Pierre Gasly. Certain circumstances made his time with the team questionable, as he failed to reach the podium and couldn't keep up with Verstappen. So in 2021, Red Bull decided to replace him with a more experienced driver, Sergio Perez. At first, it seemed like the perfect move. Perez showed incredible performances, especially with his strong defensive driving in races like Turkey and Abu Dhabi. But over time, we've seen just how much talent Albon had hidden within, and that's exactly why Yovidia wants him back. This time, though, it'll be more complicated, as Yovidia no longer owns 51% of the team, as he did during the height of the Horner saga. The former team principal had Yovidia's full support, and that likely kept him in the role for so long. Now that the situation has changed, would it really make sense for Albon to return to Red Bull? If the move happens, the Austrian team would definitely benefit. They'd get a much more experienced driver with a deeper understanding of how an F1 car should behave. However, the current environment at Williams is completely different. The team has built its project around Albon, and he's become the cornerstone of the new regulations that the Grove squad is eagerly awaiting. Huge steps have been made by a team that used to finish seasons with 0 points, and the Sainz-Albon duo is already being considered one of the strongest on paper for 2026. But that open seat next to Verstappen is very tempting. Yuki Tsunoda's recent performances have raised a lot of concerns. Since joining Max at Red Bull, he's only managed to score 7 points. For comparison, Hajar has scored 22 and Lawson 20, which suggests that maybe the car is the issue. If that's the case, Albon will definitely think twice before returning to a dysfunctional team, the same one that left him without a seat at the end of 2020 and out of F1 in 2021. Of course, Horner was still the team principal back then, and now with him gone, the nature of a potential new agreement could be quite different. But looking at the current developments for both 2025 and 2026, it's hard to see a logical reason for Albon to leave Williams and return to Red Bull. The biggest unknown here is the new regulations. Literally, no team on the grid knows how their cars will perform. With so many changes and so much innovation, anything could happen. But with Mercedes and Ferrari expected to have the upper hand thanks to their superior engines, Williams could be a serious contender. Meanwhile, Red Bull, a newcomer in this engine category, could struggle to keep up with the top teams. This could also trigger a move by Verstappen, something that's been discussed in many previous videos. The good news is that Max and Albon still have a very good relationship. Albon was never really his rival at Red Bull. He was always behind in performance. But from today's perspective, Albon would clearly be an upgrade over Tsunoda. That's not to throw shade at the Japanese driver, but he just hasn't delivered when it mattered most. He spent 5 years in the junior team, longer than any other Red Bull-affiliated driver, before being promoted to race alongside Verstappen. And while the car may have its flaws, his ability to adapt hasn't been good enough. Yuki was confident that the RB21 didn't feel too hard to drive when he first tested it, but scoring just 7 points in 12 races is simply not acceptable for the second driver of a team whose star is in the top 3. And here's the catch. If Red Bull underperforms in 2026, we're going to see a very bad situation in the Constructors' Championship. If Verstappen's performance drops because of Red Bull's new power unit, there's no way Tsunoda will be able to make up the difference. His performance will likely drop too. And from being a top team, Red Bull could very well fall to midfield, or even to the back if Max decides this team is no longer right for his talent. So replacing Tsunoda with a stronger candidate is clearly a priority for the Austrian team. But according to Laurent Mekies, former Racing Bulls team principal, the plan is to give the Japanese driver another chance before starting 2026 talks. On the topic, Mekies said, "The priority is giving Yuki what he needs to perform. That's the priority regarding the second seat. It's what the team is focused on. We've been trying that for several races now. We're looking for ways to take the next step." Spa was very positive in that regard. Hungary was a more complicated weekend overall, so it's probably harder to judge. But there's no reason why Yuki can't perform like we've seen him do in the past. Even so, there are still many loose ends at Red Bull, and the second seat dilemma will continue to haunt them for a while. It's clear that the car isn't built around Max. He's just able to adapt and tame it like only he can. But that doesn't mean the second driver shouldn't be able to do almost the same job. The top candidate for that seat is Hadjar, with Lindblad rumored to be heading to Racing Bulls to prepare for a future Red Bull promotion. But a surprise move involving Yuvidya and Albon could also be on the table. With all this in mind, do you think Alex Albon is a legitimate candidate to replace Tsunoda? And if so, how do you think the Austrian team would perform under those circumstances? Let us know in the comments, and once you do, make sure to click on the video that's now showing on your screen.